I was in the trucking business for 20 years, 10 years as a Teamster driver and 10 years in management. And it kind of was like a very clashing kind of culture. Everyone's trying to get over on the other side. And I hated that. So I learned from both sides that this is not good. I'd rather everyone pulling in the same direction. So if you align it, then let's all just come to work every day, figure out what we're going to do today. Let's grow, because if we grow, there's other opportunities for anyone who wants to move up and do more. And just let's figure it out, no more than that. And it's funny, that's our kind of, our whole business plan is based on growing and figuring out as we come to work. And if you work with people who you like, you're not, back in the trucking business, 4:55 was looking at their watch, putting on their shoes, ready to go, till 5 o'clock gets there. In our place, like no one's looking at their watch. You're with people you enjoy being with.
Yeah.
It's not so much like work,
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about hiring, specifically hiring for the entrepreneurial spirit and what that really can do for your organization as you continue to grow and scale. One of the problems that a lot of growing organizations have is attracting the right talent. And many times the right talent are not the ones who check all the boxes when it comes to education or experience. You're looking for character traits that fit your culture. And the entrepreneurial spirit is one of those character traits that really fits the culture of today's guest. But hiring for that entrepreneurial spirit is a little bit different. And so we dive into that with Jim Berlin, the CEO and founder of Logistics Plus. Logistics Plus is an 8 times Inc. nominee. They have over 1,000 employees. And Jim and I sit down and talk about why he values the entrepreneur spirit and how he actually hires for that entrepreneurial spirit and why it actually makes a difference as the company continues to grow and scale. One of the things you'll learn today is he doesn't care that much about schools or experience. In fact, he has to unlearn some of the things if he ever brought those people into the organization. But what he prefers is to hire based on these characteristics like passion and fire in the belly that really align to this entrepreneur spirit. And that's what we talk about and unpack today. So hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I did. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach. We do leadership development for managers that want to become leaders. And we have cultural transformation services where we're really helping companies create scalable, predictable growth. Now, that's a mouthful, but what you really want to take away from this is we help growing organizations continue to grow. We do it through leadership alignment and through leadership skills that really stretch across the company. If you do that well, you will have a much better chance of seizing opportunities and really growing your companies. And if there's any way we can help you, please reach out to me, gene@genehammett.com. Now, if you're a little just timid about reaching out, you don't want to get pitched to, I get it. But if you're curious about the work that we do, you can sign up for the virtual conversations that we host once a month. August will be our next one. If you're listening to this, we'll talk about culture is everything. And if you feel like that's a good topic, you'd like to talk about it with other Inc. 5,000 CEOs or executives, and you want to join us for that, make sure you sign up. Just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. You can sign up for the next one. Now, if that topic doesn't resonate with you or not available during that time, then you can absolutely sign up for another one that fits. The point is, you can listen in and even ask questions of me, my team, other experts if you want to join us for those calls. There's no pitch in these calls. So just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversation. Now, here's the interview with Jim. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing great.
I'm excited to talk to you today.
Same here.
We're going to have a great conversation about the entrepreneurial spirit and what that really does to drive your business. But before we do that, let's talk about your business, Logistics Plus.
Sure. Started back in 1996 when I got fired for having a big mouth as a former trucker and terminal manager. I was 44 years old, had a life choice to make, and as is usually the case, we don't know the big choices at the time, only looking back at them. So I had a chance to go to work for another trucking company in Buffalo, New York, as a terminal manager. I also got asked by General Electric, who at the time was the largest company in the history of planet Earth, if I wanted to start a little routing center for their locomotive division. And all my friends says, what the hell do you know about business? Take the terminal manager job. But I'm usually pretty contrarian, so I took a leap and it kind of turned out to be the right major decision for me and a lot of other people actually.
Fantastic. You know, I want to ask you another question about the industry of logistics, because I know that you work in different areas, you work in multiple countries, but where do you see things shifting in the next 3 years? I don't know if AI is going to have an impact on what you're doing, but what are the big shifts in your industry in the next 3 years?
It does. There's a lot. The supply chain, till the Suez Canal and Cove Northern heard of supply chain before. Now everyone's an expert on it. So there will be technological advances that, in my mind, hopefully will take away a lot of the menial, repetitive work. We never bring stuff like that in to get rid of people because I think people make us great. But if we can get them to not do menial tasks instead and rise up and do more important stuff, that's what I'm hoping, AI and these other things will do. That's what we've done in the past. I mean, it'll change, but even back in the early days of the internet, and that was a big deal, of course, and it tracks a lot of things much better than you could before manually. But it's still, it's I'm a little bit of a cynic on that. It's still a guy in a tow motor going into a warehouse, pulling something off the shelf, loading it on a truck. Guy driving a truck 2,000 miles, unloading. I mean, still a lot of manual parts to that, and technology makes it easier to track. But until some kid develops an app that moves a pallet from here to Chicago, there's going to be people involved. So people still going to matter.
Well, I know that to be true because nothing is going to operate without people, but it will. Leveraging technology has always probably helped you and your business. But you've grown to 1,000 people. Like that's a pretty impressive number of people that you're leading. 25 countries. You've made the Inc. list 8 times by my count. I don't know if any of those numbers need to be corrected.
No, I think they're right. I don't follow them, but probably right.
Well, you've grown a very, impactful organization, and you've said a number of times already that people are a very important piece to that. What is it about your people you feel like really allows you to perform at the level that you guys are performing at?
Well, I think the key is to hire people that don't mind our style, our culture. It's a very different kind of culture. When I speak at schools, my tagline is "Don't try this at home," because it really shouldn't work. But with a lot of luck and the right people, it's been an incredible success for 27 years. So it's more than a fluke. And it started out with the people that when I got fired, two of the other people at my trucking company that I worked at came with me. So we knew each other. I knew they'd be great. I knew we wouldn't let the customer down. And so starting with people that you know and trust and have a good chemistry with, and we've always hired in that mindset. We really, we're not big on resumes. We're not big on college degrees. We're not even big on experience in the industry because you could have a lot of experience. It's the wrong kind of experience from our point of view. We'd rather take someone with kind of ambition and energy and a passion for doing good work and teaching them how we move stuff. So it's kind of, and it's very non-formulaic. It's really more of a gut and kind of, it's really been word of mouth. It's people come to me and say, you know what, I met this gal or this guy somewhere else. He'd fit in perfectly here. And those are usually the best hires, without looking at the resumes.
Well, I know that hiring for fit is very important, and it usually is a more mature entrepreneur that realizes how important culture is. It just takes some cycles of hiring the wrong people that look good on paper.
Yeah, I learned that.
And I've made those mistakes. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah.
One of the things that you had told us too is the importance of an entrepreneur spirit.
Yeah.
How do you assess that in the hiring process?
It's much more in the dialogue. Our interviews are not kind of typical. It's more just a kind of a discussion. Like let's just talk and get to know each other. And you look for the fire in the belly and the glint in the eye and kind of the passion. And what I do, I have a habit from day one. I warn people that our industry is it's different in that the trucks and the trains and the planes and the ships, they don't stop at 5 o'clock. It's an industry that stuff's always moving. You're dealing all over the world, so different time zones. And there's sometimes during your work that you're going to get bothered at the soccer game on a Saturday or your kid's party at home on Friday night. And it sucks, but you got to answer that phone. If the problem needs to be resolved today, you can't wait till Monday to be resolved. Monday's too late. And I tell people, I get that you probably don't want to do that. And if you don't, this is probably not the right industry, but definitely not the right company for you, because we demand that. And the flip side of that is if you do your job right the first time, chances are pretty good you won't get that late night call. So do the job right the first time. But people that say, you know what, that's not my thing, hey, go in peace, find another job. But this is not that kind of job. And it's like I always say, like you take the big fat guy who doesn't play shortstop, plays first base. You want someone that's fit in the right role. The role here is that you got to be responsive. You got things are going all the time. You got to keep an eye on it, and you can't let up till the shipment's delivered.
I'll share a funny with you just to make sure this point comes home. This is hearsay because I wasn't in the room, but Herb Keller, the founder of Southwest Airlines, was asked one time, "Hey, you have such a unique culture. How do you get your people to smile all the time?" And he comes back and responds, "Oh, I hire smiley people."
That's great.
You can't make someone smile. You can't put that fire in the belly that you mentioned earlier, but you can tune into it and bring them into your mission with you. When you're hiring for this entrepreneurial spirit, is there anything that like a question that unlocks this for you, or anything that you can share with us that allows you to tune into to that spirit?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. It's more of a feel than verbal.
Okay.
But I'll give you a good example though. So we have several women and a guy, three or four people who run $50 to $100 million parts of our business. They all came from Starbucks, a brewery, McDonald's, Tim Hortons. You may not know Tim Hortons because that's north.
I do.
Okay. But you know what? What they all had in common was they were good people. They one's a bartender. One serving you your dinner, and it's probably a goofy example, but I always say if you're a waiter or waitress, and the steak comes out and it's overcooked to the customer's taste, and he says that steak's overdone. You can't say, well, go back in the kitchen and kick Joe's ass. He overcooked it. I told him medium. He made it well done. You gotta calm them down, make them happy so they come back again. You gotta go kick Joe's ass and quiet. Say, hey man, we just threw out a good steak here. You gotta be like a middleman.
Yeah.
You gotta deal with people. And if you have that skill, it's very translatable to what we do because we're just moving freight. We do more than that, but basically you're moving product it's not your product. Somebody made it and the customer ordered it, and you got to make sure that they get it on time in good shape at a fair price and everyone's happy. So it really is very much like that. So four of our divisions are run by people that came from the food service industry, no background in logistics, but they're natural leaders. Everyone follows. One room is 50 people, and she is the unquestioned leader of that group. So we got lucky. I mean, I can't give you the formula why we hired her, but it's worked out real well.
Now, we've been talking about the entrepreneur spirit with Jim, and I just wanted to highlight this really aligns to one of the core messages that I've been talking about on stages for a long time, which is people feeling like owners, which is really a different way to say this entrepreneur spirit. When they feel like owners, even without a financial stake, they lean into the work, they lean into the problems and innovation, the client experience. And if you're willing to lead people through that, then you can actually connect to a deeper level of drive and commitment to people. And you don't have to give them money to do that. You can really align to their own personal drive. And so some of the factors in that are a mission alignment, transparency has to be apparent, inclusion, and a real sense of a mindset of ownership inside of the work that they do. And they're willing to push through the barriers. There's many other aspects of this, but I wanted to give you this taste of what you're looking for is people who feel like owners, even if they aren't actually owners. That will drive your business forward. Back to Jim. I love this. Hiring people is what I took out of that. And I can think of so many examples where someone hired someone because they were smart. They hired them because they knew some kind of software, whatnot. And then they come back and go, it didn't work out because they weren't people.
Yeah, no negative energy. I mean, I'm a big believer in positive energy as a force multiplier. If people, when I was in the trucking business for 20 years, 10 years as a Teamster driver and 10 years in management. And it kind of was like a very clashing kind of culture. Everyone's trying to get over on the other side. And I hated that. So I learned from both sides that this is not good. I'd rather everyone pulling in the same direction. So if you align it, Let's all just come to work every day, figure out what we're going to do today. Let's grow, because if we grow, there's other opportunities for anyone who wants to move up and do more. And just let's figure it out. No more than that. And it's funny. That's our kind of our whole business plan is based on growing and figuring it out as we come to work. And if you work with people who you like, you're not, back in the trucking business, 4:55 was looking at their watch, putting on their shoes, ready to go, till 5 o'clock gets there. In our place, like no one's looking at their watch. You're with people you enjoy being with.
Yeah.
It's not so much like work,
Jim, I want to switch the focus a little bit. We've been talking about entrepreneurial spirit, which is very important to tune into that in the hiring process and develop that as your company grows. But I want to talk about leadership principles. And the first question I want to ask you in this line is, what's a principle that you used to believe about leadership that you no longer believe now? You've had a change of heart, if you will, or an inflection point about your core leadership principle.
Yeah, I think it's that point about experience. I hired a few people from the industry that were experts in their field, but they didn't have they knew how to move stuff, but they didn't have the passion to find a way to yes. I mean, it was very easy for some of these guys to say, well, we can't do that. That's impossible. Can't be done. Just call them and tell them. No, I mean, like, maybe there's not a way, but let's try a little bit harder. Even though they had by the book ways, I always say in logistics, when everything goes right, it's an easy freaking job. It's when things go wrong and you got to come up with plan B, C, D, and E to get it delivered on time. That's when it's challenging. And these guys didn't have that kind of resourcefulness or customer first idea. They just, hey, we tried, didn't work. Oh, well, 10% of the time, shipments don't deliver on time, and that's that. Well, that's not with us. It's not that.
I want to ask you another question too around leadership. And I had showed you my book that's coming out. I'm going to hold it up here in case anybody's watching on this, How to Have Tough Conversations. Is there a tough conversation that you have addressed? And I don't need to know specific names, but you avoided it for a while, but then you finally had it and things got much better. Is there a story that you can remember?
Yeah. There's been a bunch of those. And
the avoidance part?
Yeah, both. I mean, it's tough to do.
Yeah.
Even, I'll get back to the employee part, but even, I mean, like when I hire people, one of the things I tell them is that if you promise the shipment's going to be delivered on Friday, then you find out on Thursday or Friday that it's not, it's hard as hell to pick up that phone and call this customer you promised to and say, I'm sorry, it's not going to be there. So, but you got to make that call because he can't hear it from someone else. He can't hear it from the trucking company. He can't hear it from his customer that he didn't get it. So that's just part of the thing. So I think we probably don't have, I try to do it as needed, but sometimes, especially with people close to you, it's a hard thing to do. And we actually had a case a couple of years ago where someone had been with us for a long time. We had a few discussions, very tough, and it just wasn't sinking in. I said, well, like, we got to part ways. I mean, big hug. Sorry, I wish it wasn't like this, but probably better for you and better for us to do this. And then did, not part of any plan, but a year later, came back. It's been different. It's been much better. So I don't know. You're right. You have to have these conversations, even though they are difficult. But it's a hard thing to do.
Now, Jim and I were talking about tough conversations. I mentioned my book, which I'm going to hold up again here, How to Have Tough Conversations. It is out now wherever you like to buy books, Amazon, Audible. You can buy ebooks and print books, all of those things. And I share this with you because I know a lot of people are avoiding tough conversations. There are probably people on your team right now. There might be people in your executive team that are avoiding tough conversations. Are they as good at it as they need to be? Now, only you can answer that question, but I've created a framework. I've created tools that really help you streamline this and improve on the skill of tough conversations. Now, I think it's unpacked very well in this book. And if you want to go ahead and get it where you buy books, or you just want to go to howtohavetoughconversations.com, you can do that now. Back to the interview. Well, Jim, we've been talking about the entrepreneur spirit. We're talking about what really drives your company. Is there anything that you feel like we might have left out that you want to highlight today?
No, I think I'm like a 60s guy. So I'm like the opposite of structure, for good or for bad. I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah.
But when I ran the trucking company, I ran a small terminal, about 20 drivers. We had the great operating ratio, best in the company. But when I saw the org chart that the company had, there's this big corporate, on top, and then there's 37 terminals, and we're at the bottom. And I felt like, oh, man, like I'm just that. I'm just a corner of this big organization at the bottom of it. So I try to not have that. I try to let people rise up, have power. We don't micromanage. It's really entrepreneurial 27 years later that you have a good idea. Let's try it out. Let's see how it works. Instead of kind of a chain of command that kind of stifles innovation and people giving a shit. It's better if they can try things. And there's no org chart. There's no closed doors. You come to me if you need my advice. Whoever can help you, you go to. It's not like you gotta go through this chain of command and get to somebody.
Well, I really appreciate you being here, Jim, and sharing your insights and principles of leadership that have driven Logistics Plus to where it is today.
Thanks, Gene.
Wow, what a great interview. I love having these interviews with old school CEOs that have evolved. That's what I'm picking up from Jim. He has been around for a long time. He started his business in 96. He's in a very traditional kind of, logistics world of people that requires a lot of people. It never sleeps. And so he wanted to really stress the importance of hiring people that are self-sufficient. They work autonomously. They drive forward to solve the problems and innovate. And hiring for that entrepreneurial spirit is a big part of that. And so hopefully you've got as much out of it today as I enjoyed bringing it to you. My name is Gene Hammett. I love to help entrepreneurs continue to grow their business. If I can help you in any way, through leadership or leadership development, or cultural transformation, please reach out. Let us know how to help. When you think of leadership and you think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.